Aloha and welcome to Supply Chain Training with Vessel. Thank you and mahalo for attending. We are excited to dig into this topic at hand with you and your team. Being born and raised in Hawaii, I have a vested interest in the success of manufacturing companies in my home state, especially since I grew up with most of these local brands. We spoke with Hawaii manufacturing companies like you to understand the unique challenges you face on a daily basis. Thank you for participating in our research. We really appreciate all your time and feedback, as it was important for us to connect with Hawaii companies first. The opportunity to work with your companies generated a lot of excitement for us to dig into this project. We believe this training will provide key insights to help your team improve over multiple supply chain areas. Our goal is to provide education to bring applicable next steps to your company to improve your processes and overall efficiencies. To better serve you through this training, we would love to identify topics you would like to learn more about through your feedback. Please leave a comment below, letting us know what we should dig into further. Mahalo. Welcome to video 2 of the material management topic. In the last video, we covered material prioritization and supplier relationship management. In this video, we will cover supplier analysis and risk mitigation. Let's start with supplier analysis and supplier scorecards. When evaluating your supplier's capabilities, typically manufacturers use a supplier scorecard to rank or rate their suppliers. There are a few major reasons to utilize a supplier scorecard: communicating your expectations, aligning your company's goals and your supplier's goals, understand your costs accrued from your suppliers, maintaining relationships, and mitigating risk. Especially in food manufacturing, preventing risks with your suppliers and maintaining relationships are particularly essential. Manufacturers that I've worked with over the years all emphasize the importance of maintaining good supplier relationships. This was especially valuable to them during COVID. Supplier scorecards give food manufacturers the ability to understand how a supplier affects the company's product quality, overall compliance, customer satisfaction, and performance. These scorecards are based on key performance indicators, also known as KPIs. KPIs are objectives with a specific goal relative to the company's direction. Targeted objectives help drive the goals of the business and typically focus on critical aspects of the company. Your plan to work with suppliers will be based on the specific KPIs you and your team put together to be successful. Supplier scorecards help you and your team organize goals based on KPIs to create a plan of action for working with suppliers. KPIs in food manufacturing are usually associated with operational efficiency, but having KPIs across your other departments is just as important. Some examples of departments to build your KPIs around would be procurement, finance, sales and marketing, regulatory, and compliance. Building your KPIs around your departments and their associated goals will help you outline your goals for each supplier within your scorecard. The main reasons you will want to create KPIs when using your supplier scorecard are developing strategic relationships to drive business, reduce cost, and increase the quality of your internal processes. Considering these benefits, let's look at some critical areas to focus on when building your KPIs for your materials and accompanying scorecards. Regulatory and compliance for food safety, material quality and consistency, customer service and responsiveness, lead times, defect rates, inventory and order accuracy, and number of suppliers per material. When your company KPIs align with the objectives for your suppliers, you can drive business and focus on profitability. Supplier scorecards at their core help you track this information. When creating a supplier scorecard, focus on the areas we have identified to drive the benefits mentioned. To recap, let's look at the process of creating a supplier scorecard. Identify your KPIs by department at your company. For scorecards, take your procurement KPIs and make sure they align with the rest of your departments. Once you have alignment, start with the most important materials and work your way down from there. Once you have your KPIs and expectations set based on your company's needs, build your relationship with your suppliers by asking them questions in the critical areas we discussed. Rank your suppliers for each material based on their responses and actions relative to these categories. Some suppliers may provide you with multiple materials, which will give you more than one scorecard for each supplier. If you have only one supplier for a material, you will have only one score. Once you have ranked your suppliers, it is time to give them a score based on the answers they provided. When you are just starting out with supplier scorecards, you don't need to be sophisticated. You can work toward this. Rather than ranking on a scale of 1 to 5, you can use a 3-point scale. Maybe something like unsatisfactory, cannot meet your needs, neutral, needs work but can meet needs, satisfactory, and meets all of your needs. It's best to start simple. To help, we will also include a sample supplier scorecard in the leave behind for this module. Mitigating your company's risk is essential in food manufacturing, and a supplier scorecard helps you do that. Let's look at some other areas that can help you mitigate your risk when working with suppliers. Our next topic is risk mitigation. Risks are inevitable in manufacturing and need to be addressed as early as possible to reduce the potential for preventable issues. Educating your team and your suppliers of potential risks will help you build internal communication at your company as well as enhance your partnerships. As a business, you only have a limited amount of energy to give to each relationship. Once you have prioritized your suppliers using your supplier scorecards, you can start to address the risks based on your priorities. After you have prioritized your resources, there are some major areas of risk mitigation your team will typically want to cover. These areas include the following: supplier mix, procurement strategy, product quality and consistency, manufacturing process, and workforce. Starting with your supplier mix, identify backup suppliers for your critical materials helps you to mitigate the potential risks surrounding your production process. You could run into some of the following issues if you only have one supplier for essential materials. Things like extended lead times leading to delayed production, increased prices reducing your margins, material shortages, or even stockouts. Having a proper supplier mix is vital. Mapping out your secondary suppliers once you have ranked your primary suppliers is key. An alternative supplier takes a long time to get up and running, so starting your search and relationship building as soon as possible is key. Prior to starting your search, make sure to create a vetting process for your suppliers. Your regulatory and compliance needs will guide your food safety protocols, which in turn guide your supplier selection. Documenting your needs for a supplier and deciding what is acceptable and what is not will help you in building these relationships. Follow these steps when creating your vetting process for working with potential primary, secondary, and tertiary suppliers. Establish your criteria for your supplier selection. Research potential suppliers. Cross-reference materials and conduct background checks. Utilize resources like state commerce departments to ensure proper certifications and legitimacy. Conduct interviews with potential suppliers. Utilize targeted questions that drive you toward your priorities and goals. Obtain quotes, and conduct a financial analysis to determine your best options. Once you have your suppliers determined, you will need a procurement strategy. Identifying your risks within your procurement strategy will help you keep your inventory stock at an acceptable level. Some key factors to consider when purchasing materials are supplier relationship management, transparency from your suppliers, cost analysis, regulation and compliance. To make your procurement strategy effective, make sure to consider the material selection and prioritization we discussed earlier in this module. Creating supplier needs based on the compliance requirements and regulations will help ensure your company's success in material quality and consistency. Consider these areas for your materials. Understand cost relative to quality. Work with your supplier to understand their testing and analysis of their components. Build relationships with your suppliers to understand where they source their components from and how sustainable their practices are. Utilize your own testing and analysis to ensure quality. Focus on accurate labeling to keep track of batch and lot numbers. Key materials affect your manufacturing processes and will dictate certain needs within your production. Preparing your production process by considering risks and mitigating them in advance can help you prevent major issues. Mitigating your risks as a food manufacturer is essential. Working with your team and your suppliers to understand your needs will be key in mitigating your risks. To wrap up this video, let's revisit the key points. Material selection and prioritization is a critical first step in developing your material and supplier management strategy. Market trends show how prices have increased in Hawaii. Preparing your company for those uncontrollable factors by analyzing your costs is key. Maintaining a focus on quality and consistency with your suppliers is critical. Build a partnership with your suppliers based on trust and a mutually beneficial relationship. Identify how you can collaborate and be a great partner for each other. Prioritize your suppliers based on your key materials and develop a specific strategy for each. Analyzing your suppliers will help you set goals and focus on building the best possible supplier network. Utilize supplier scorecards to help rank your suppliers internally and also hold them accountable. Develop KPIs to use internally and externally when working with suppliers. Mitigating your risk with suppliers is critical to preventing issues in the future. You can't prepare for every possible outcome, but you can think about your risks in advance to give your team a head start on creating solutions when issues do arise. Thank you for joining the Supply Chain Education module on Material and Supplier Management in partnership with Innovate Hawaii. I'm Nick Kawaguchi from Vessel. Please make sure to share this video and post any questions or thoughts in the comments section below. Mahalo. We really hope you found valuable insights within this training, and we're excited to hear your feedback. Our goal is to help improve Hawaii manufacturers' understanding of the supply chain. The more feedback we receive, the better we can provide meaningful connections and future ideas for how to service you and your teams. Please let us know what you thought through our survey Innovate Hawaii will send out over the next few weeks. Also, make sure to reach out to Wayne at Innovate Hawaii with any questions or concerns you may have. Thank you for attending, and mahalo.